What's up? It's your man Roj, Out the Box TV, and today we're going and digging some more bonus content out the vault. Checking in with my man Kwamé, the legendary Kwamé, just dropped his new album, The Different Kids. Now you've been writing, producing, doing music scores for films and all kind of things in the entertainment industry, but it's been about 26 years since you've at least been on the artist end of all of this. What was something that inspired you to get back in the game on the artist end?
Um, I think what inspired me to get back in it, a few things. I think on a low end, this is a very low end of it because I'm not like a vain type of person, but on the low end, I just felt like a lot of times I was being overlooked in the hip hop conversation, and which is it is what it is. I don't mind that, but what I do mind is I know that my skill set is very high, and I don't want to be overlooked in a conversation when I could compete in that space. I could still compete in that space, and I could still give viable music. So part of me was like, let me show these people, you know what I'm saying? But that's just a little bit. That's not like a whole big thing. Um, but then also I'm Generation X, or I'm told I am Generation X. And a lot of people in my generation, we make a lot of plays. We program radio stations and television stations and direct movies, and we do all these things that feed content to the masses, but I rarely see anything fed to us by us, for us.
Right.
And so I wanted to be able to come out with an album from the perspective of, like, yo, I'm I'm of a generation, and I want to speak to my generation. I want to speak to my generation through nostalgia. I want to speak to my generation through real life experiences that I might be going through, or people that I know are going through, and be as transparent and as possible as an artist, and actually do real art, not doing a record for the radio or a record for the clubs or something for something that you might not be, but doing something 100% genuine. So that was the real push to get me to put a record out.
Gotcha. And I know you have your own swag, your own style. And I think that is what helps play into the album title. But I hear that the album title, The Different Kids, has a special meaning to you.
Yeah, the different kids. The different kids is just basically saying that you don't have to fit into the boxes that people put you in. From the time you're like 4 or 5 years old, people tell you what you got to do. And, especially us Black Americans, Black people don't do that. We don't listen to this. We don't eat that. We got to wear this. We got to act like that. We got to talk like this. And it's like we're trained to be in our boxes. We're
Mhm.
trained to fall in line and just do things, I guess, the quote unquote normal way. And when anybody decides to do something different, you looking at them like they got four eyes on the top of their head, and they shouldn't do that. So my whole life I've just been different. I've dressed different. I've made music differently. I conduct myself in a different way. So I'm like, I gotta embrace that. I gotta, you know, put this in a body of work and be like, you know what? It's not a problem to be a quote unquote different kid, because when you do things the different way, when you do things your own way, and you decide to do things the way you want to do them, you have a 100% success rate. There's zero failure in it, because you had an idea, you had a vision, and you did it, and you achieved that. It has nothing to do with money or fame or anything like that. It's about having an idea and stepping forward with your idea. So that's what the album is about. That's what the different kids encapsulates, and it's about those people that choose to be themselves and express themselves.
Now, you have a record titled Kwame to Kwame, and I thought it was kind of cool that you were sitting here having a conversation with the younger version of yourself. Now, tell me if you think that the younger Kwame will be proud of the current day Kwame.
Oh man, my younger self would be hype because and when you listen to Kwame, I'm literally telling my younger self, you could get everything that you want. You just ain't gonna get it now. But nah, homie, it's about to go left real quick. But if you think the right way and if you maneuver the right way, you will get everything you wanted and then some. You know,
Okay.
things, I've achieved things. And trust me, this is not a flex. Like when I was a kid, all I wanted was like a gold record. I wanted to put out my album and I wanted my album to go gold. And the record label that I was on, Atlantic Records, kind of robbed me of that experience. They kept saying, you had to sell 500,000 copies to go gold. And they were like, oh man, you're at 420,000. I'm like, yo, come on. Look, what is it? What do we have to do? Do I have to go buy the other 40,000? Like, why can't I get my gold record? And I was just
Right.
focused on that. But then you fast forward to 2025 and I look at my wall like beyond this camera and I'm like, yo, I'm looking at 20 platinum plaques on the wall. I'm looking
Mhm.
at 10 gold plaques on the wall, and I'm like, none of them are my first album, but at the end
Mhm.
of the day, I didn't think I was going to achieve that. I didn't think I was going to be a producer and a writer and do all this stuff for all these other people. I thought I was just going to make Kwame records and get a gold album. That's all I
Right.
wanted at 16.
Now, I know I have a few more minutes with you, so I do have a very important question to ask you in just a second. But before I get to that, I do want to know if you have any favorite records that you wrote or produced.
A favorite that I produced? I don't have any favorites. They're all like kids of mine. This last, I produced, well, on my label, I produced this artist, Vivian Green. And this last album that she put out is called Love Absolute. I love that album. I feel like I put my whole body into that album. And I think that the album didn't gain the traction that we may have wanted on a, I guess on a outward point of view, like an industry thing. Both of us are so proud of that body of work because like we went in and we went in under small circumstances. We recorded that album in a small little room. We didn't go into a big studio. We didn't, none of that.
Hmm.
Um, and so that body of work I'm really proud of. There's another artist on the R&B side that may not have had like the super big recognition, but I love the body of work that I've done with artist named Algebra Blissett out of Atlanta. Um, she has an album. Well, I've worked on both her albums, but her second album, um, there's a record like there's a record called "Can I Keep You."
Okay.
Um, man, I love that record. That record is ridiculous in my mind. That record is ridiculous because it started out one way, and then I got a full on orchestra to play on it, and like I went in my bag on that record, and it's just it's a little known record, but I love that record. I love that record a lot. And people are familiar with the artist Ro James. If you're familiar with Ro James, there was an independent record we did before he even got a record deal called Pledge Allegiance. That's the record that got him his deal, but it didn't, politics didn't put the record on the album. But I love that record.
Okay.
I think that's a dope record. And those are just like three of like maybe like I have a top five, top 10, but those three
Right.
R&B records I really love. And then on the
Gotcha.
hip hop side, there's a rapper named. These are all like underground stuff that I like more than my. But there's a rapper named O Solo. And no, Step Up. I did this record for the movie Step Up 2. And it's a record called Monster by this artist named O Solo. Yo, I love that record. That record, When I tell you that record makes you want to either dance your neck off or run outside and punch somebody in the face. I don't know which one.
Now, I do have several favorites myself. Definitely showing love to my girl Vivian Green. I'm Not Broken, Sweet Home, Disrespectful, those records like that. But I am was stuck and still stuck on the record that you did for Christina Aguilera titled Understand.
I made that beat for Whitney Houston.
Oh man, so how did that one actually get in the hands of Christina?
You stole it. No, I made that beat for Whitney. Clive Davis called me personally and was like, we're working on, which ended up being Whitney's last album. We're working on Whitney's record and we really need some like soulful, deep records. And so I immediately made that record. I made that beat. And at the time I was working on Keisha Cole. And I made a record on Keisha Cole's first, not her first album, but I was making a record for Keisha Cole, and her A&R, her president of her label is a guy named Ron Fair, and Ron Fair also knows how to write string arrangements. So when I played the beat for Understand, I was like, Ron, I know this is not on your label, I know this has nothing to do with you, but I love your string arrangements. Can you put string arrangements to this beat? He said, yeah, if you give it to Christina Aguilera. He was like, look, did they pay you for the Whitney record? I was like, no. Are they moving forward like in a good manner? I was like, no. And so when we did it, we were in the studio and then he brought the string arrangers in. I was like, oh, I can't let this record go now. This is yours, Chris. So Christina Aguilera ended up with it.
So as I mentioned, you've done the writing, the producing, scores for film, the artist part of this whole game. And there's a line in your song called Miss Mary Mack where you say, don't call me a legend yet. So out of all the things that you've done in this industry, what do you think that you have left to accomplish before you can take on that title?
Even if people call me that now, it's not up to me. I will never call myself that. Ever, ever, ever in my lifetime. Here, now. I'm never going to do that. So, I'm always like, I feel like I'm always like, for my next trick, I got this. For my next, I'm always trying to do that, So for my thing, I think people can call things legendary, if this album resonates with people the way I would love it to, that could possibly be a legendary thing. Because like, who takes 26 years off and then jumps back in like, they never left, or even possibly better?
Right.
I don't know too many people who do that. I haven't done that research, but I guess somebody can think that's a legendary move. I don't know. But all I know is my job is to create. My job is to try to push a boundary and try to do something before somebody else does it. And hopefully, if I reach the point where I'm like some super old looking like Yoda, dope. If I can stay with the Star Wars thing, if I'm a Jedi ghost and people want to talk about it, dope. But it's not for me to talk about. I'm not allowed to talk about that.
Well, Kwamé, I appreciate your time. Thanks for being legendary, all right? And y'all know how it goes. We got an all-new episode of Out the Box coming your way in just a matter of days. But in the meantime, run it up. Any episode that you've missed so far, you can catch it on outtheboxtv.com. Let's go.